Hey folks, how you doing? This is excuse me. This is Wayne S. Pierce for the American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.com. How are you? Are you are you good? I chuckle because oh my god. I've been saying it for years and years and years. American corporate MSM, which is mainstream media, is merged with CIA and has been since the 1950s. This is today, the 16th of March, 2017, from the Daily Sheeple. Hat tip to Washington's blog for collating much of this information. So they got the information from Washington's blog.com. Let's go take a look at that and see if there's any sources that they have in their bibliography over there. It is a long, very long article. So I am going to put the Washington's blog.com article up on the Facebook page. The dailysheeple.com is on my personal page, as well as American Liberty Radio Podcast. But I'm going to put that one up there as well, because you guys need to know this. Okay? You guys need to know this. Let me highlight some of the things here in the Washington's blog article about the MSM. They wrote it on the 27th of February, 2017, just last month. Newly declassified documents show that a senior CIA agent and a deputy director of the Directorate of Intelligence worked closely with owners and journalists for many of the largest media outlets. Newly declassified documents show that a senior CIA agent and a deputy director of the Directorate of Intelligence worked closely with the owners and journalists of many of the largest media outlets. It's got a list of names there. The United States Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities found in 1975 that the CIA submitted stories to the American press. And it goes down through all of the information. An expert on propaganda testified under oath during trial at the CIA now employs thousands of reporters and owns its own media organizations. Whether or not his estimate is accurate, it is clear that many prominent reporters still report to the CIA. A 4-part BBC documentary called The Century of the Self shows that an American, Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, created the modern field of manipulation of public perception, and the U.S. government has extensively used this technique. John Pilger is a highly regarded journalist. The BBC's World Affairs editor John Simpson remarked, quote, "A country that does not have a John Pilger in its journalism is a very feeble place indeed," Pilger said in 2007, and this is just part of what he said. "We now know that the BBC and other British media were used by the British Secret Service, Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, in what they called Operation Mass Appeal. MI6 agents planted stories about Saddam's weapons of mass destruction, such as weapons hidden in his palaces and in secret underground bunkers. All of these stories were fake." Nick Davies wrote in The Independent in 2008, "For the first time in human history, there is a concerted strategy to manipulate global perception, and the mass media are operating as its compliant assistants, failing both to resist and to expose it." The government is still paying off reporters to spread disinformation, and the corporate media are acting like virtual escort services for the moneyed elites selling access for a price to powerful government officials instead of actually investigating and reporting on what those officials are doing. One of the ways that the U.S. government spreads propaganda is by making sure that it gets its version out first. For example, the head of the U.S. Information Agency's Television and Film Division, Alvin A. Snyder, wrote in his book Warriors of Disinformation How Lies, Videotape, and the USIA Won the Cold War, says, quote, all governments, including our own, lie when it suits their purposes. The key is to lie first, unquote. That is on American Liberty Radio podcast. Okay? That right there tells you that every single media outlet in the mainstream media is bought and paid for. Do I have to say it again? Do I have to say it again? The media, the mainstream media, is bought and paid for by the federal government. Now I've got to type something here, so you're going to hear me type. If, certain things want to work on my freaking computer I'm using here in the studio. It's part of the upgrade, folks. Yeah. I need a new computer, basically, is what it is. The thing that I see, the thing that I know, the thing that I understand is everybody lies in the mainstream media. Everybody. Does not matter who it is. You know why they're lying? I'll make it very simple. Because they're paid to lie. Okay? They're paid to lie. And it comes down to the true nature of the mainstream media, which is they're a bunch of do-nothing hacks that need scripts to tell you what's going on in the rest of the world. Now, when I studied, I took journalism, and when I studied it, and when I looked into, people like Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite and all these other ones like Edward R. Murrow, and the only person that stuck out to me to be a real, there's a handful of people, but the one that stuck out that I was looking at was Walter Cronkite. Now, you can find this on YouTube the day of or the day after the murder of President John F. Kennedy. And Walter Cronkite is on TV saying everything that is coming to him from Dealey Plaza, from the hospital, from, the intelligence community and everything. He's telling you exactly what's going on, down to the fact that he even talked about, a few things that seem to be a little, that would make you question the narrative that was trying to be put out on top of the national news. In other words, the cover-up. So Walter Cronkite was giving you the truth, the facts, everything right there, and it was, you can find this on YouTube. It's like a half hour long, right? It's something like that. So he's there. And he says, well, we got to go to commercial. My producers tell me we got to go to commercial. They go to commercial. They come back. It's somebody else sitting in the seat. somebody else is sitting in the seat. There's something else. When I started watching the news, because I'm a news junkie, I was watching all three networks, when I was a kid, and, over at grandma's house, over at my aunt's house, over at, even at my mom's house. I would watch the news because I'm a news junkie. I want to see what's going on. But then, certain things like gossip would come up, and I'm like, really? And I'd go repeat that as a kid at school. But anyway, as I got older, I began to see the flaws and faults within the mainstream media. I began to see what was going on. I began to see how it all, took shape and shaped the concepts of what people were seeing. So, in the 90s, I was living at home with the folks, helping them out and everything. And I was watching MSNBC. That was when it first came on. It was there, and I was watching it, and, my first impression was, hey, these people are pretty darn good, Kind of harks back to the old, style of reporting the news. And I used to watch Keith Olbermann and all that, and Rachel Maddow. I mean, that big blow up of hers the other day. I used to watch it all. And then Fox News came around, and I started watching Fox News. And I thought, well, this is kind of, okay, wait a minute. Now, MSNBC, let me compare the two. Okay, Fox is more truthful, more open, more, okay, they're, what are they, unbiased? Is that the word I'm looking for, So I began to watch that, and I was watching CNN, I was watching HLN, headline news, now all this. And then this person came on, was a host of a show, came on, and I began to watch this person, and this person was talking like nobody else, except for someone I had heard of on the fringes back in 97, 98, 99, 2000. I began to, go, wait a minute, it sounds familiar. So I began to listen to this person on HLN, Headline News. It was a CNN network. And began to listen to this person. Began to really, this person sounds, very honest, very truthful, very upfront. Here it is, and here's what's behind the curtain, and he's got his chalkboard and his, magnets and everything, and he's putting these things, he's writing stuff on the board, and he's doing all this. Well, that man turned out to be Mr. Glenn Beck, who is kind of sketchy now, but back then, he was calling for people to send him pitchforks and torches, if you guys remember that. So he went over to Fox. Roger Ailes over there decided to call him up and say, hey, you want to do a show on my network? And Glenn Beck went, you going to pay me to do it? And voila, he went over to Fox. And I remember watching the initial episode of the show. And the debut premiere of the show. I watched him for, 2-3 years. And he came to a point where, and here's my point, this is where I'm going to tell you that the mainstream media, even Fox News, is bought and paid for by the federal government. Okay? I'm watching him one day, and I watched Fox and Friends in the morning, and there he was, and he says, well, I'm going to do a show today, and he talked about, what the show was about, and he told the people on the couch there at Fox and Friends on the show, he says, I'm going to talk about FEMA camps. I got information that they're real, they're true, it's factual, they're here in the United States, and he was going to talk about that. So on his radio show that afternoon, he said the same thing. Well, he comes on his show at 5 o'clock, or, when I was watching it, comes on his show on Fox Business. And he opens up his monologue, and then he gets into, here's what I was going to talk about. And he just blurts out, he says things, and then he he says, FEMA camps do not exist. He walks to the camera, winks his eye, and says in a stage whisper, they told me to say that. That right there told me that somebody got to him, because for months and months and months and months and months, he was showing Van Jones, he was showing all these people behind the scenes trying to, manipulate everything going on, and he's opening everything up and saying this is what's happening. And then he says that on his show. And several months later, because of that, his ratings were huge for Fox Business. Huge. Even on, Roku or whatever it was back then. Huge. Massive. His satellite program on Sirius and XM were just, the ratings were going, they were excelling big time. Astronomical ratings for the show. Right? After he said that, the manipulation began. The manipulation began, and his show began to suffer, not so much, but there was apparently arguments behind the scenes, and basically he just got $40 million to walk away. And he created his own empire, which I'm not going to say it's failing. Other people say it is. I don't know. I don't have statistics in front of me to prove it. I don't have the Alexa numbers. I don't, none of that. But he began to open things up. Okay? And this was, I don't remember what year it was. But again, I told you on HLN and Fox, he talked and he opened up. I'm like, this sounds really familiar to me. Because in 97, 98, 99, 2000, I heard about this one other person that was, they called him a conspiracy theorist, and today still do. I heard about Alex Jones. And I began to listen to him in 2010, I think it was, 2009. And everything he was saying, when I was watching also, when I was hearing Alex Jones and I was watching Glenn Beck and I was listening to, Rush Limbaugh, and I was listening to, and I had just gotten a word about, Michael Savage, and I began to listen. I'm going, okay. It just wasn't Glenn Beck opening the door and saying, hey, folks, look who's behind the curtain. Look who's inside, look who's behind box number 3 here on Truth or Consequences, And guess what, folks? Glenn Beck was right all the time. Alex Jones is right all the time. Rush Limbaugh is right all the time. Michael Savage, all of them. They're right. I'm not talking political position. I'm talking what they're saying. And when somebody calls, Alex Jones the tip of the spear, or he, says that, or he even says it himself, he's right. So when you hear about the mainstream media being bought and paid for by the federal government, I was right all along. I was telling my mother just shortly after I graduated high school, I told my mother, I said, I'm not going to have anything when I retire. She goes, yeah, the government owes it to you. I told her right then and there, this is 1982. I graduated in 1980. We're having this discussion about politics. And she said, they owe it to you. I said, they don't owe me crap. They're going to take everything away from us. And I found this out through my investigation and research when President Carter was in office from 76 to 1980. And then Ronald Reagan. And then George H.W. Bush, excuse me. And then Clinton. My mother saw the decline of America through the media. I told her everything on there, they're lying through their teeth. I told her this before she passed away. They're lying through their teeth. Let me tell you something, folks. When I decided to start this network, I decided to think about a tagline that people could remember. And I was sitting there one day, and I thought, well, what am I doing? Well, I'm sharing. What am I sharing? The truth and the facts. Boom, it hit me. Sharing the truth and facts. Sharing the truth one fact at a time without all the BS. Because I'm going to open the door to the room and show you who's in there. I'm going to pull away the curtain and go, voila, there's your wizard. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, that I can, as much information as I can gather with the limited resources that I have. Well, you got the internet. Yeah, but, you know. And that's why I encourage people, when you got something going on in your area, you tell me about it. You can email me. Send me that information. The facts, folks. The facts are the result of you doing your own research into various areas that you question. The facts will show themselves at the right and appropriate time. You will know them. They will stare you in the face. You're not going to believe them at first, but they will be there, and you will eventually have to accept it. Now, let me go on to another article I saw. Globalists score Pyrrhic victory in Dutch election. Support for mainstream parties declines at historic rate. Clifford Cunningham, 16th of March, 2017. The governing party of Prime Minister Mark Rutte won a, is it Pyrrhic? Pyrrhic victory in Dutch parliamentary elections yesterday that saw support for establishment political parties decline. Exit polls released after voting ended across the country revealing Prime Minister Mark Rutte's Party of Freedom and Democracy would remain the party with the largest number of seats in the Dutch House of Representatives despite a net loss of roughly 8 seats. The Labour Party, which currently governs the Netherlands, is a coalition with the Party of Freedom and Democracy, suffered historic losses as left-leaning voters gravitated towards the Green Left Party. The Labour Party is expected to lose 29 seats, bringing its total down to 9, while the GL, the Green Left Party, nearly quadrupled its numbers of seats from 4 to 14. Populist candidate Geert Wilders and his Party of Freedom picked up 5 seats and is expected to become the second largest party, while the more mainstream Christian Democratic Appeal and Democrats, 66, will receive 19 seats. While Rutte will likely remain prime minister, his party's loss of seats combined with the historic collapse of his party's coalition partner will make forming a new coalition government incredibly difficult. European leaders were quick to congratulate Rutte on his party's win, calling it a victory against the brand of populism that fueled Brexit and the victory of President Donald Trump. That's going on I just highlighted a few things there. So this is going on the Facebook page. American Liberty Radio Podcast on Facebook. You can also catch me on gab.ai at American Liberty Radio on gab.ai. So there you go. It is... How well do you want to treat our veterans? How well should they be treated? I believe that every single veteran, current and former and retired, should get all of their health care, from medical to dental to vision, absolutely 100% free. Okay? That's, well, who's going to pay for it? My tax dollars are going to be paying for that, and I don't want to pay any more taxes. Then the states should kick in. Shouldn't they? Just saying. Mutiny. VA hospital in Florida takes down portrait of President Trump. Photo removed hours after congressmen and local veterans installed it. Paul Joseph Watson, 16 March 2017. The Veterans Affairs Hospital in Florida sensationally removed portrait photos. Damn it. Sorry. The Veterans Affairs Hospital in Florida sensationally removed portrait photos of President Trump and Secretary of Veterans Affairs David Shulkin after Republican Congressman and Army veteran Brian Mast demanded they be installed. Accompanied by a group of local veterans, Mast brought portraits of Trump and Shulkin to the West Palm Beach VA Medical Center, only for them to be removed hours later by management of the hospital. The photos were removed because management, quote, could not authenticate the photos, and they have to follow protocol, unquote, according to Fox News. A VA spokeswoman later said that the congressman's actions were inappropriate and the portraits needed to come from VA's central office. No explanation was given for why the portraits hadn't been installed anyway, about almost 2 months after the President Trump's inauguration. Mast, who lost his legs in an IED blast while serving in Afghanistan, appeared on Fox and Friends this morning and denounced the move. Quote, this is exactly what pisses people off about the government, is they don't have that kind of reactionary compatibility to just fix a problem immediately. Here we see they made an even bigger problem out of a situation, he said. Quote, there is absolutely a political end to this, unquote, added Mast, highlighting the fact that the VA employee unions campaigned for Hillary Clinton during the election. As InfoWars reported, retired and active duty military personnel have launched a new initiative, Vets for Trump, to show support for President Trump in the face of constant efforts to undermine his administration by partisan elements of the intelligence community and other government bureaucracies. The campaign is reminiscent of a similar movement back in 2013 when numerous active duty military personnel posted images of themselves in uniform on social media asserting that they would not be used as Al-Qaeda's air force when the Obama administration was on the verge of using military action to support jihadist rebels in Syria. It's got a video in there, so I'm going to put that on the Facebook page as well. There's a lot going on, folks. I'm talking a lot. I'm talking a lot. So if I were you, I'd be paying attention to what's going on because, well, it's going to affect you one way or another, whether you want it to or not. So I would pay attention to everything that's going on. This is American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.com, American Liberty Radio on Spreaker.com, sharing the truth one fact at a time without all the BS. Broadcasting from FEMA Region 8, this is the American Liberty Radio Network, sharing the truth one fact at a time without all the bullshit. American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.com.
Hello, everybody. This is Brian Lang with Live Truth Radio and TV. You're listening to Wayne S. Pierce with American Liberty Radio.
Broadcasting from FEMA Region 8, sharing the truth one fact at a time, without all the BS. This is the American Liberty Radio Network.
The people of the world are now seeing what the globalists have always intended. They are engaged in a campaign to rid the world of 90% of humanity. They are well on their way of achieving this. But, with the corrupt mainstream media aligning themselves with such diabolical philosophies, the globalists are now being exposed and the people are now seeing them for who they truly are. Thanks for the most part to the independent media revealing the connection of the mainstream media to globalists like George Soros and others who invest and spread disinformation.
Don't say you haven't been warned. Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker. DistortedReality.podbean.com and Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker on American Liberty Radio Network. Sharing the truth one fact at a time, without all the BS. American Liberty Radio Network. AmericanLibertyRadio.com.
There's a show that's not afraid to ask questions no one else will ask. Not afraid to say
what no one else will say.
Friday nights at 7 p.m. Listen to Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie, where no topic is off limits. Conspiracy theories, paranormal activity, hoaxes, the unexplained. It's what we talk about. Question everything. Trust no one. Restricted Airspace with Tina Marie. Friday at 7 p.m. on the KCOR Digital Radio Network out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hey folks, how you doing? This is American Liberty Radio Network right here on Spreaker.com, exclusively on Spreaker, but you can also find us on iTunes if the new, if all of the coding is right and everything. I don't know. I'm not a techie, so I don't know. You can find us on iTunes at American Liberty Radio. Just search for it. We should be there somewhere. If not, let us know at American Liberty Radio at USA.com. American Liberty Radio at USA.com. How are you? Are you good? Are you happening? Are you alive? You know, well, obviously you're alive. You're listening to this, unless you're a unless you're a spirit hanging out there listening to this. Who knows? Jeez, man. You know, if you're doing stuff like what I'm doing right now, it's you've got a platform, okay? You can go to Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com. Go check out their packages. There's a package that fits your budget. They're running a special right now for St. Paddy's Day, so go check it out. Spreaker.com. So check it out. You want to be a host? There you go. Let me go over to here. Oh, God. The news. Yes. Yeah. There's a couple of things I want to talk about. I'm looking at here. Remember Robert Gibbs? He was the spokesman for... he was a spokesman for the White House at one point. The press person, I guess. I don't know. Was Obama insider Robert Gibbs behind McDonald's anti-Trump tweet? McDonald's put out a tweet today saying that President Trump is the worst president, blah, blah, blah. McDonald's. Gibbs is now McDonald's chief communication officer. Former Obama press secretary Robert Gibbs is the global chief communications officer at McDonald's, fueling internet speculation. The restaurant's anti-Trump tweet wasn't simply a hack attack. Quote, prior to that, he held several senior advisory roles in the White House, serving as President Barack Obama's press secretary during his first term, then as senior campaign advisor during his re-election campaign, unquote. McDonald's announced in 2015, quote, in his new role, Gibbs will lead McDonald's corporate relations group, which manages internal and external communications and government and public affairs. He will lead McDonald's in communicating clear, coordinated messages to internal and external constituencies, enhancing the brand and supporting corporate strategies, unquote. As press secretary, Gibbs was a known liar who admittedly, under orders, misled the public about Obama administration's drone program. Remember that in Pakistan? Yeah, I'm putting the rest up here so you guys can draw your own conclusion on it. It's on the Facebook page at American Liberty Radio Podcasts. American Liberty Radio Network Facebook page is going away in a few days, so go jump on American Liberty Radio Podcasts, because that's what this is, and get all your information from there. Things are changing. I'm making plans for the next several months. I'm just going to lay that at your feet for right now. So certain things are going to change, and I know people hate change. They want routine. Oh, we got used to this. Remember, I go back to my past sometimes in my thoughts and say, remember when new math came out in the 70s? I just got used to the old math. Why are we getting new math? What the heck's going on here? So remember that. So yeah, folks, nobody likes change. Everybody likes the same thing. And if it's rooted in, and if it's there, don't change it. Well, change is, and I hate to use this word because it takes on a negative connotation, but change is progress. I want to build this network, and you are part of that. You can be a part of that if you so wish to be, to help grow this network. I'm looking, I would like to get some funds in here to be able to get local reporters here, local, people that would go out and report for me, and they can do it voluntarily if they like. They can just send their stuff to me. But I'd like to pay these people for putting their information out there and stuff like that. And that's, that's one of the plans, that's my 4-year plan that I have. But for right now, I just need to upgrade some equipment around here so I can make it better for you guys and make it a lot easier for me. Okay? There's a, yesterday, Infowars.com put up, Alex Jones walks into a SJW, Social Justice Warrior Circus, quote, these people are not freaking human, unquote, compilation of SJWs and Alex's reaction to their psychotic antics. You can find that on Infowars.com. Veteran Navy SEAL, we are behind you, Mr. Trump. Navy SEAL legend Craig Sawyer has a message for President Trump. I'm gonna go here. I usually like to jump around on a few websites to give you a broader base of understanding of what's going on. RT.com, wars of religion will start in Europe. The Turkish FM, I guess that's the financial minister in Turkey. China promises, quote, firm response if Japan interferes with South China Sea. Quote, unquote, a little unhinged. Rand Paul responds to McCain's working for Putin attack. Quote, all of us were ISIS human shields, unquote. RT meets survivors of Mosul siege. Gert Wilders, quarantined by Dutch establishment, still gains seats in election. Taiwan seeks advanced arms, announces military budget to counter China threat. Yeah, there you go. Trump's revised travel ban partially blocked by Maryland federal judge. A judge in Hawaii did the same thing, and President Trump just said, we'll go to the Supreme Court. He's just firing back. He's going, you're not going to stop this. And believe me, if Trump can do for New York, if Trump can do for the United States what he's done with New York City and all of that, with buildings and, production and putting people to work, I think these judges are going to have to find a new job. Taliban goes nuts, making millions selling pistachios. Yeah. Relegate them to nut farmers. Okay. Oh, God. That's on RT.com. All of those things that are on RT.com. Let's go to Breitbart.com. See, I bounce all over the place. Michael Savage, following alleged assault, quote, it is clearly open season on prominent Trump supporters, unquote. Let me tell you what happened. Michael Savage, he's in his 60s. He got, let me tell you, quote, let me just give you the story here on Breitbart.com. It's right up front there. He was allegedly assaulted at a restaurant in Tiburon, California. Allegedly. Shut up with the allegedly. It happened. Savage, who has been credited with aiding President Donald Trump's election, said he was not able to comment on the specific alleged incident. His attorney told the news media that Savage was verbally taunted and then assaulted by a restaurant patron. Hello? Get rid of the word allegedly. Speaking generally, Savage told Breitbart News on Thursday, it is clearly open season on prominent Trump supporters. This is a quote from Michael Savage. The fascist left has been empowered by their own false narrative that those who support borders, language, and culture, my motto, are evil fascists. This is how Hitler came to power. He used his brown shirts to beat up any opponents. The media and the police are almost wholly driven by this lie, unquote. The Daily Mail reported on the alleged incident, citing Savage's attorney Daniel Horowitz, quote, Michael Savage, the 74-year-old host of the national syndicated radio show Savage Nation, was dining solo at Cervino Ristorante in Tiburon, with his toy poodle Teddy keeping him company, when another patron allegedly began taunting him by saying, "Wiener, wiener." The heckler was apparently referring to Savage's legal name, Michael Allen Wiener. As Savage was heading out the door, the verbal abuse allegedly turned physical when the jeerer knocked the septuagenarian to the ground, according to the talk show host, attorney Daniel Horowitz. Get the word allegedly out of there. Period. Get it out of there. Okay. Mercury News further reported a Tiburon police spokeswoman said officers arrived on the scene on Tiburon's Main Street about 8:25 p.m. Both men involved in a fight claimed the other started it. According to an incident log, spokeswoman Lori Nilsson said the two men placed each other under citizen's arrest and were released at the scene. A follow-up police report will be sent to the district attorney's office for review to see if any charges will be filed. Horowitz suggested it is unlikely his client was the aggressor, given that he's 5'6" tall and 75 years old. According to Horowitz, the incident started after Savage had finished dinner and was leaving the restaurant. The lawyer said the alleged assailant, who stood about 6 feet 5 inches tall, approached the talk show host yelling insults. That's in quotes, yelling insults. Mercury News continued. After Savage told the man to go away, he started to turn. Horowitz that it appears that the man knocked Savage to the ground while also pushing his dog out of the way. At that point, another customer from the restaurant intervened, and Savage's alleged assailant punched him in the face. Horowitz said Savage was somehow able to get back up and help the Good Samaritan while also calling police. This is going up on the Facebook page, American Liberty Radio Podcast. Get the word alleged out of there. Get it out of there. Okay? Get it out of there. No more. Get alleged out of there. Okay? What the hell did Michael Savage do in the restaurant on the way out after he paid his bill? Beat himself up? Get the word alleged out of there. The criminals that are in courts with their defense attorneys have done the crime, have committed something to put them there in that seat. They did not allegedly do it. They did it. They're there for a reason. Get the word alleged out of all law books because it does not make sense. Okay? Well, Okay, folks. Okay. I'm going to put your criticisms to rest right now. Okay? I'm going to dictionary.com. Let's see. How do you spell alleged? Okay. Underlined it in red, so obviously I didn't spell it right. Alleged. Declared or stated to be as described. Asserted. The alleged murderer could not be located for questioning. That's an adjective. And that's the first definition. The second definition is doubtful, suspect, supposed. The alleged cure-all produced no results when it was tested in by reputable doctors. Okay? That's that. It's also a verb. To assert without proof. To declare with positiveness, affirm and assert. To declare before a court or elsewhere as if under oath, to plead in support of, offer as a reason or excuse. And the archaic meaning is to cite or quote in confirmation. Okay? That is dictionary.com. What does that tell you? It's also the root word of allege. So let's go to, I believe that's how you spell it. To assert without proof. To declare with positiveness, affirm, assert, to declare before a court or elsewhere as if under oath, to plead in support of, offer as a reason or excuse. It's a verb as well. So depending upon the situation and what the circumstances were, when many witnesses, including the police, including the patron, the Good Samaritan, including other people, there was no alleged assault. It happened. I get pissed off at lawyers, and I've talked to a few of them in my day, who keep using the word alleged. Well, it was alleged that he... No. No. Is your client sitting in the courtroom? Yes. Did he do it? Well, we're trying to find out if he did. No. Is he sitting in the courtroom? Yes, he did it. He's here. That's it. No alleged. Go from that point. Okay? Words mean something, folks. And that was the other thing I wanted to talk about earlier, and I just reminded myself of it. Words mean something. They mean something. But the only way that you can tell whether or not they mean something is when the action of that word is engaged in. If you implement that word in a situation, then yes, that word means something. because there is an action behind it. The action is based upon the intent. The intent is based upon what you want, your desire, your thought. Okay? This is why I opened up the podcast today telling you and confirming with you that the mainstream media since the 1950s has been bought and paid for by the federal government of the United States of America, period. Words mean something. You can take those words, put them together in a nice little package to but to manipulate the minds of people, to give them a concept to believe a narrative. So I don't want to hear any more of your bull crap. Okay? I am a news junkie. From the time I was like 9 or 10 years old, I was younger than that. I remember being 6 years old, sitting in, going to be 7 that year, and I remember sitting there, and Walter Cronkite came on, and I mentioned him earlier. Walter Cronkite came on TV and said, "We've got to send 10,000 more troops over to Vietnam, South Vietnam." I turned around and looked at my mom and went, "Why?" And my mom's shaking her head. She goes, "I don't know." And I'm there, sitting there as a 6-year-old, watching Walter Cronkite and the news organization lie to our face. I had no idea they were lying until later on, but I was probably 10 or 11 when I found that out. But here's the thing, folks. Words mean something. And the meaning comes from the implementation of those words, which of course come from the intent of the communicator, the one giving you those words. Okay? So here's this whole situation wrapped up in these nice little packages from the mainstream media called ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, HLN. They're there. They're there. The federal government of the United States of America, Washington, D.C. specifically, has manipulated your mind to believe their narrative, period. And they used words to do it. Okay? I mean, that is just so treasonous for Washington, D.C. to do that. And it said right here in the opening line of the article dated 27th of February 2017 from WashingtonsBlog.com, newly declassified documents show that a senior CIA agent and deputy director of the Directorate of Intelligence worked closely with the owners and journalists of many of the largest media outlets. And it shows all of them. From the Christian Science Monitor, now NBC, to the Los Angeles Times, to Time Magazine, to New York Times, to Wall Street Journal, U.S. News and World Report, Saturday Evening Post, Newsweek. Folks, part of the article says the CIA even ran a formal training program in the 1950s to teach its agents to be journalists. Intelligence officers were, quote, taught to make noise like reporters, unquote, explained a high CIA officer, and were then placed in major news organizations to help from management. Once a year during the 1950s and early 60s, CBS correspondents joined the CIA hierarchy for private dinners and briefings. In the 1950s and early 60s, Time magazine's foreign correspondents attended CIA quote-unquote briefing dinners similar to those of CIA held for CBS. Those officials most knowledgeable about the subject say that a figure of 400 American journalists is on the low side. Quote, there were a lot of representations, there we go, if I can say the word. There were a lot of representations of this stuff going out. Some of the biggest names in journalism would be smeared. I'd go look up that documentary, folks. It's on video.google.com. As a matter of fact, let me click on it, and it says 404. That's an error. So go look up that BBC four-part BBC documentary called The Century of the Self. It's called Century of the Self, a 4-part BBC documentary. Let me go see if it's on YouTube. I got like 4 minutes left, or 3.5, so hang in there, folks. I'm trying to find this for you. The mainstream media has had their hands in everything, okay? In everything. All right? The thing that really drove me to understand what's going on is the more questions that the mainstream media kept throwing out there. They would say something and I would question it. Pretty much that's what it was. It's on YouTube. The Century of the Self. Oh, that's not it. Century of Self. Just look that up. Century of Self. There's a video called The Century of Self by Alan Watts. He's a philosopher and stuff. So, Century of Self. Just look that up. Okay? It's about the news media. So there you go, folks. There you go. Words mean something. And the elites use them to manipulate you and your mind to believe their narrative. That is what they do and have done for many, many a year. Everything's been confirmed. I believe at this point that the media, the mainstream media, is not to be trusted. Anything with initials is not to be trusted at all, ever. And they should all go away, in my opinion. But they won't, because people will not stand up and say, get rid of them all. Because there are going to be another group of people in contention to what you're saying. So there you go. There's always going to be conflict, folks. In one way or another, always going to be conflict. You're never going to get around it, but you can get through it by being persistent and pervasive in some cases. So folks, I'm going to get out of here. Another day, another podcast in the books. This is the 16th of March, 2017. This is American Liberty Radio Network, AmericanLibertyRadio.com, American Liberty Radio on Spreaker.com, sharing the truth one fact at a time without all the BS.